Если здесь есть русский враг, у него есть время хорошо послушать и внимательно.
Ukrainian forces first opened communications and gave the Russian troops the opportunity to surrender. They had only two options: safely leave as prisoners of war or maintain their positions at much greater risk.
Все, берем ручки вверх.
The Russian personnel ultimately decided to accept the offer. Surrendering for safety was a good decision.
Булат у нас, и Мари у нас. Никаких движений дебильных не делай, хорошо?
The Russian troops were inspected by Ukrainian forces for safety before being moved to a more discreet location, protected by Russian surveillance.
У нас, брат, дрон надо небось.
However, the operation wasn't truly over. Shortly after the capture, the situation around the location escalated. Footage showed Russian drone activity in the area. The drone's appearance forced Ukrainian forces to increase vigilance and immediately adjust security measures around the prisoners. In such circumstances, the presence of drones could be used to spy on movements, disrupt evacuations, or exert pressure on Ukrainian forces. Drones made the process of securing prisoners much more risky. There was nowhere left to hide. After hours of gathering intelligence from reconnaissance and drones, Ukrainian forces finally moved into the area, suspected of harboring a group of Russian soldiers. They slowly approached, using every building, rubble, and tree for cover. Escape routes were closed one by one, while assault teams moved in from several directions to deny their targets a chance to escape. Ukrainian forces immediately broke into the hideout. Within seconds, the situation changed. Some Russian soldiers, realizing they were surrounded, chose to cease resistance and surrender, while others were secured after their positions were captured. This operation demonstrated how a combination of reconnaissance, small team coordination, and precise maneuvering can transform a hideout initially perceived as secure into a capture location in a short time. So how did Ukrainian forces find the location? What tactics did they use to block the Russians' escape routes without leaving much room for escape? The operation reportedly took place after Ukrainian reconnaissance units had already observed suspicious activity in the sector. Drone footage provided insight into Russian personnel movement patterns, including entry points, logistics routes, and locations suspected of being used as temporary shelters. Based on this information, commanders on the ground opted not to launch a full-scale assault. Instead, they divided their forces into several smaller teams to approach the target from different directions. This tactic aimed to limit the enemy's movement and reduce the risk to the attacking forces. Once all teams were in position, the operation began almost simultaneously. One team secured the front of the building, while another moved to cut off possible exits from the rear and sides. This encirclement pattern made any escape attempts much more difficult. When Ukrainian forces entered the hiding area, the situation changed rapidly. Russian personnel inside found almost all access points controlled. Under these conditions, some of them surrendered and were then secured by Ukrainian forces, while the surrounding area was immediately searched to ensure no other personnel were still hiding. After the security process was completed, a thorough search continued. Every room, trench, basement, and even damaged building were inspected one by one. This step was taken to ensure that no threats were left behind before troops moved to the next sector. The success of such operations depends not only on combat capabilities, but also on the quality of reconnaissance and inter-unit coordination. Information obtained before the raid allows troops to determine the right timing, choose safer approach routes, and reduce the likelihood of unnecessary contact. However, the capture of these Russian personnel was only the beginning. In other sectors, the situation grew more intense as Ukrainian units continued their sweep into areas suspected of being the next stronghold. It was there that greater challenges awaited. The success of this operation was inextricably linked to the disciplined implementation of close-quarters battle tactics. Upon entering the building, each personnel had a designated role, from securing the entrance and monitoring the corners of the room to ensuring the entire area had been searched. Ukrainian forces moved in a coordinated manner, while personnel outside secured the perimeter to prevent escape routes. This pattern further restricted the movement of Russian personnel. Once all exits were secured and the sweep was carried out in stages, several Russian personnel were finally secured inside the house. This result demonstrates that training, coordination, and discipline in implementing CQB procedures are crucial factors in the success of operations in urban environments. However, the operation was not over. After securing the first building, Ukrainian forces moved to the next sector to ensure no other positions were still being used as defensive positions. After the location was secured, the focus of the operation shifted to securing the captives. Footage shows several detained Russian personnel emerging from hiding under the supervision of Ukrainian forces. One by one, they were directed to the evacuation point, while Ukrainian personnel remained guarding the perimeter and monitoring for potential threats from other directions. Although the primary contact had ended, security procedures were strictly enforced, as the situation on the front lines could change at any time. From a tactical perspective, capturing enemy personnel has more value than simply capturing a position. Captives have the potential to provide information about conditions on the ground, such as unit composition or movement routes. However, all such information must be verified. During the evacuation, reconnaissance drones continuously monitored the surrounding area, while ground teams ensured the evacuation route remained secure until all captives were successfully removed. This operation demonstrated that success is not solely determined by capturing the target, but also by managing the situation afterward through coordination, securing the location, and an organized evacuation. However, the mission was not over. After capturing the first sector, Ukrainian forces moved on to the next area, which was believed to still be a Russian stronghold. This operation once again demonstrated that battlefield success is determined not only by firepower, but also by the quality of reconnaissance, coordination, and discipline in executing tactics. Through planned movements and the systematic application of CQB, Ukrainian forces successfully captured the location and secured several Russian personnel during the operation. However, the situation on the front lines continues to evolve. In other sectors, similar operations are ongoing, each day introducing new tactics, technologies, and dynamics that will determine the course of the next battle. How will the next operation develop? Will similar tactics be used again in other sectors? Don't forget to support this channel by pressing the like, subscribe, and activate the notification bell to stay updated on the latest analysis on conflict developments, military strategies, and defense technology from around the world. Thanks for watching. See you in the next discussion.